Hello everyone, Rebels at Cloud9 here, and today I'm really excited to be building the Bandai 1/1000 scale Asuka from the anime series Yamato 2205. Some of you might know this series as Star Blazers, but a short time ago the series was redone as Yamato 2199. This is a really complex looking model, but as is typical with Bandai, the parts are broken down really well, so assembly is easy. And Bandai even included with this kit a small single LED that you can use to light up the ship's tower section. The kit instructions provide some great looking color pictures to use as reference, and even though most of the instructions are written in Japanese, Bandai makes them dummy proof so they are really easy and clear to read. Bandai kits are designed to be pressure fit models, so you don't need any glue. However, I prefer to glue these models together. For me, it's more reassuring to have all the parts glued together and know that they won't fall off. Also, the parts fit together with excellent precision, so no filler was required when I built this kit. I'm using Mr. Hobby Mr. Surfacer 1200 primer on all of the plastic. This is my preferred primer as it's a nice even gray lacquer paint that really bites into the plastic and has a beautiful flat finish. If you don't spray it on too thick, it won't obscure all the tiny details. Because Bandai mold their kits in multicolored plastic, for those who aren't interested in painting, the Mr. Surfacer will provide a nice even coat for me to paint on. For the orange sections, I needed to create a unique color. I first used Tamiya X6 Orange, and then I added a drop of XF79 Linoleum Deck Tan to create a color I've called Pumpkin Orange. I really like this duller orange color, and to me it matched very closely the colors in the show. And after I had painted the orange sections, I went back and painted the rest of the model with more Mr. Surfacer. When the primer is fully dried, I take some 1500 grit sandpaper and I'll lightly sand over the entire model. I don't apply a lot of pressure here either, it's just enough to further smooth out the primer and remove any specks of paint or debris that might have landed on the model while it was drying. I painted the decks with Mr. Color UG Phantom Grey. This is an acrylic Gundam color, and it's really fantastic for sci-fi related models. It's a really nice dark gray that will complement the hull color and not be as harsh as something like a flat black. I decided to paint a base layer of Tamiya XF82 Ocean Grey. I prefer to paint the entire model rather than painting in each of the panel lines, as this method is a lot faster, and it will also provide a nice model finish for the rest of the hull color. For the main hull color, I used an equal mix of Tamiya XF23 Light Gray and XF12JN Gray. I then added some XF2 Flat White to brighten up the paint a bit more. The Asuka has a very strange gray-green color, and I thought that this mix was pretty close to the color I had envisioned. I thinned the paint about 50%, and then I slowly painted it onto each of the panel sections, leaving the darker ocean gray paint exposed around the edges. This will help create a more varied tone and color, and help the model look more dynamic. This can be a slow process, but when you get the pressure and paint thin just right, it's really fun to see all of these sections painted up. I just wasn't totally satisfied with the hull color. It had a really nice gray tone to it, but I wanted it to be more green. So I carefully applied Tamiya XF25 Light Sea Gray. This was thinned down a lot, about 65 to 75%, and I lightly painted it over the model. I needed to spray in light passes so that I wouldn't build up the paint too much and ruin the pre-existing layers. I also want to mention that this method of painting is very deceiving, as the wet paint will appear brighter and it will eventually dry darker. And because the paint is so thin, you might feel the need to paint on a heavier layer, so I had to keep reminding myself that a light layer would go a long way in achieving the color that I wanted. I wasn't too thrilled with the colors used in the decals for the aft flight deck, so I decided I'd rather paint these details on myself. It turned out to be a fun process involving a lot of masking and remasking, but I started by painting on thin layers of XF2 Flat White. And next I added a light layer of X8 Lemon Yellow. And now for some tedious work. I cut a whole bunch of thin strips of tape and I slowly added them all over the yellow sections, leaving a small space in between. I then painted on Tamiya XF7 flat red to complete the pattern. I then masked over more of the deck sections and painted flat white. This was a really fun method to paint all these areas instead of using the decals and having to worry about the decals silvering, but it is time consuming, and as you can see, I used a lot of tape. I was very happy when I removed all the tape and there was no bleeding from the paint. I really love how this section looks painted up, and in the end, I think it was well worth all that extra work. The windows were tricky as they are a pale white-green color, and my brother actually suggested I try a new paint from the army painter called Toxic Mist. This is a really great paint, and it's almost a necessity if you're building a Yamato kit. I painted in the panel lines with Tamiya panel line accent color dark gray, as this would be the best paint to complement the rest of the hull color. This is also a new ship in the series, so I was going to keep the panel lines really clean. The wash was applied over a gloss coat, and I left the wash alone to dry for about 24 hours. This makes it a lot easier to remove the excess, which I did using Tamiya enamel thinner and a cotton bud. To seal everything together, I sprayed on a flat coat of Mr. Color Aqueous Flat Clear. This is a really excellent flat base that dries pretty hard for an acrylic paint, and I found it's very gentle when applied directly on top of decals. Now that the flat coat was added, I was finally able to assemble the smaller parts to the main hull. And because of the way Bandai designed their kits, this was a really quick process. And with that, I've completed the Bandai 1/1000 scale DAOE-01 Asuka. This was a very fun model and a beautiful ship design. I really love the orange highlights and how well that strange hull color turned out. And I'd like to build another, but as the Asuka's sister ship with yellow instead of orange highlights. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is Rebels of Cloud9, signing out.